If you're building an app using an AI coding tool like Lovable or Bolt, it can be easy to run into a million different problems. And so today I want to show you an AI building tool that is flying quietly under the radar that actually has all of the infrastructure you need to launch and support thousands of paying customers. It's called Leap by a company called Encore, and by the end of this video I'm going to show you exactly how to build your first app using Leap and deploy your app securely on a platform that can support thousands of customers. If you don't know me, my name is Chris, and for the last 15 years I've been designing apps and advising startups on product and design, and I believe the next wave of incredible businesses is going to be built using these AI tools. And with that said, let's get straight into Leap and see what it can do.
Build great product. Build great product.
So let's take a look at Leap. So as you kind of load Leap.new, this will be a very familiar interface to you for people who are familiar with app building tools. If you're not, essentially it's just a text field where you can put in a prompt for the app that you want to build, send it off to Leap, and then it will build it for you. There are a few differences that I think are really key to go over with Leap, and this is where I think the comparison to Replit actually makes a little bit of sense here. And I would say Leap is a good comparison to Replit in that it's got a bunch of stuff built into it out of the box, so you have access to all of your code. It can work in other applications as well. You can sync it to GitHub and work on it in Cursor or any other tool that you want to use, and it's a more kind of technically focused AI app building platform that I would say is generally better for full stack apps, and my experience with Leap has been very, very positive so far. I did a demo with the product manager on a call to go through this and how it works, and I think it is an incredibly well built platform that is really one of the leaders in the AI app building space at the moment that not a lot of people actually know about. And Leap is basically they're kind of selling themselves as a more developer focused tool. So you can see here it's got, like, across the other platforms, Bolt, V0 and Lovable, and more for like AI code generation and front end apps. Leap basically helps you build backend services. Your SQL database deploys to your cloud as well. So this is a big benefit of using Leap, is that you can deploy directly to AWS or Google Cloud. One of the other things that I noticed when using Leap as well here is that the actual accuracy in code generation that it outputs is really, really high compared to some other products that I've used in this space. And you're pretty much going to get a lot of stuff just in the first one or two prompts, at least from my experience kind of using this. And they basically say here it's not another prototyping tool. So this is, something like a V0 especially would be just a prototyping tool where you're going to build components and functionality to prototype a feature or an app. This really actually builds full functional apps with real backend services, APIs, and deploys to your cloud. And Leap is from the team at Encore. So Encore, if you don't know what Encore is basically like a backend development infrastructure platform. So it allows you to keep track of all of your API usage, all of your metrics across your app, and basically anything else that you would need to know about your deployed app and the environment that it sits on and all of that stuff. And all of these things, if you don't know what they are, that's okay, but they're really, really key to launching and scaling an app that can actually have a lot of customers on it and monitoring all of the things that are going on behind the scenes there. So if you want to build an app that's actually going to get a lot of paying customers on it, I would highly recommend checking out Leap as the tool that you build on. If you're building on another tool, you can always take the code from there and put it into Leap as well, and you can actually directly connect your database to this as well. So you can connect like a Superbase database if you're using that and you're not building it in Leap. And they have this fun little surprise me button which just puts in an app idea here that you can create. But I am going to show you today how you can create an AI app that has a built-in AI agent that you can chat to and reference the context of the things that you're creating with it in just maybe 4 or 5 prompts hopefully here. So let's actually create our app and see what Leap can do. Okay, so the prompts that I've put into Leap is pretty straightforward. I've said create an app that is a simple AI agent. The purpose of the agent is to help people, let's change that, is to help people write a novel. Let's create a simple chat interface first so I can test that the agent works. So I'm going to build this app in stages. I'm going to build out the functionality as we go. Let's send this prompt off and then see what it comes back with. So similar to what you would get with other AI app building tools, you've got this chat on the left hand side here, and you've got the code being written on the right hand side here. You do have access to a bunch more tools with Leap. You've got access to your code, you've got access to your preview here, which there's no preview at the moment because that's building. You have access to your architecture, which basically shows you all of the different backend components of your app, including any databases in there as well. And then you've got infrastructure here, which shows you all of your secrets that you're storing securely, so any of your API keys, any external databases that you're connected to. And also there's a service catalog here, which basically shows like any services that you're using in the app and shows you what's happened in a kind of log there behind the scenes. So you've got access and you've got down here at the bottom, you've got build, logs and tests as well. So you've got basically a whole host more features than you would get just out of the box from something like Lovable. And this is more similar to Replit, but giving you more of a technical kind of in-depth view of exactly what's going on with your app. So in the left here, we can see that it's got missing secret value for OpenAI key. So I'm just going to paste in an OpenAI API key. And if you don't have an API key for OpenAI and you're doing this for the first time, you can just go over to openai.com and create an account and then create an API key through the dashboard there and copy that over here. So let's go into here, and you can actually click on these elements in the chat here to just add them directly to the part of your project instead of just sending them to the chat. This doesn't make a huge difference, but it's just quite a nice user experience. I generally just kind of feel overall with using this product that it's a really considered and well thought out user experience that makes a lot of sense, and is kind of sitting in that middle ground between something like Devin, which is really, really intense and super focused on enterprise use cases for teams of developers to kind of build, where you get all this documentation and everything, and then just a solo kind of builder who is building an app, but they want a really in-depth knowledge and detailed kind of way of looking at everything to do with their app to be able to preview it, see the code, look at the architecture. So we can see here we've got this agent entity that's been created in our architecture, so we know that the agent has been created. There's going to be databases and stuff in here that we're going to connect it up to later, and it will just build this all out for us, and we can take this database and use it anywhere else as well. You can connect to GitHub at the top here, so you can connect your GitHub account, and you can also reset the database, so you're resetting like all of the data in your database to kind of get a fresh view of what the preview for this application is. So now we've got our AI assistant, our AI agent that's been created here. So let's just test it and see if it works. So we'll just say, hey, my name is Chris. And so this is thinking, and you can see the response there. So the agent is working, it's connected to OpenAI, and I just want to see if the agent has memory, if it can remember the chat history here. And what a really easy way to test this, if you're building AI agents and you want to test the functionality, to see if it's got memory, if it's referencing the right things, is just to say, like, ask it a question about a chat about something that you've already spoken about. So I'm going to say, what is my name, just to test this. And I say, your name is Chris, how can I assist you? So this is already created in just one prompt. It's created an AI agent using the OpenAI Agents SDK. It's actually referencing the chat history here, which is amazing. And if I come over into the code view here, I've got this agent folder where I can basically see the TypeScript file, which has got the instructions for this agent, and this is where everything to do with this this agent that we've created is going to be stored. Now, you don't need to know how this works, but it can be good if you're starting to build AI apps and you do want to do something a bit more complex. I feel like Leap is a really good platform to start learning this stuff a little bit as well, because it does give you access to everything, and it gives you exposure to all of this more complex stuff, even if you just want to sit in the preview and just chat back and forth with the chat just to create something as you go, just using AI. And what you get with the logs down here at the bottom as well is any errors that happen, you can just copy them and paste them from the logs, put them back into the chat here, and you can also give the chat context of a specific file. So you just click scope context, similar to how you would do in Cursor, and you get all of these elements so that you can just amend something on a specific file or folder in your app project. And you've got auto fix turned on here as well, so you can turn that off or on. Basically, Leap will automatically fix build issues after each iteration, each chat that you've done, without you having to prompt it to fix it directly, unless something else unless some other sort of error happens. What I want to do here now is basically to allow the user to create a novel and then to see if we can get the agents to reference the novel in a chat. So let's add another prompt here. So I've got here as a prompt, I want to allow the user to create a novel, which would be a document in the app. Then the agent should be able to select which novel to use as context, and I should be able to ask it questions about the novel. So we're just going to test here, start building out the more functionality for this agent of basically allowing the user to create novels as an entity. So this is hopefully going to create us a database for that. And then to allow, give the user a way of selecting which novel they want to chat about in the chat, and then send a message to the AI agent that asks it a question about the novel, and it will know the answer because it will have the context of the novel that you're talking about. So let's send this off as one prompt, and hopefully this is going to do this just off the back of this one prompt. Quick break in the episode to talk about my community for people who are building apps with AI and want to actually launch their app and get real customers. It's called the AI App Builders Academy. So if you're building an AI app with Bolt or Lovable or Cursor or any of these AI tools and you actually want to make a profit and launch your app, then this is the community for you. Inside you'll get access to a community of other builders as well as my 30-day app course helping you go from idea to app to a profitable launch in just 30 days. You'll also get access to weekly calls with live workshops and training, as well as all of my startup frameworks and resources and 24/7 support from the community to help you answer any questions or problems you're having with building and launching your AI app. So if you're building an app with AI and you actually want to make a profit and launch your app, then head over to school.com/AI apps to find out more. I'll see you there. And we can see the stuff working here. One of the things that you can do here from Leap as well is if you click deploy, you can connect directly to your AWS account or your Google Cloud Platform account here. And that will allow you to deploy directly to AWS or Google Cloud, which makes it super easy if you're using those providers already to deploy other products or if you have accounts with those services. And that is also a much more robust way of deploying an app to a live environment that people can actually use that's going to be more secure than deploying it just using Lovable or any of these other tools just directly to their own domains. It is a little bit more technical, but it does give you that functionality out of the box. So let's just wait and see what Leap is doing here. So we can see what you've got here, if you're familiar with code, is you've got the difference being shown on each of these files that Leap is writing. So I can click on this and I can see the diff here, which is basically the difference between like the red stuff, which has been removed, and then the green stuff, which has been added. So that's super useful if you do want to look at the code specifically, which is something that you wouldn't get on like a Lovable or a Bolt, is actually visibility of the code changes directly, and you do get that on more like enterprise specific platforms, and Leap works really well for enterprise as well, but something like a Devon is going to give you that. But I feel like this balance between like vibe coding plus the support and security and infrastructure of something more enterprise actually works really well. So we've got our app has been built successfully here. There are no errors in the log. You can also filter the log by backend and front end, which is super useful. And we can see here we've got this now chat assistant. We've got the chat assistant and my novels with a novel view on the left. So, and then we can select a novel to actually use as context for the novel writing assistant. So let's add a new novel here and call it Wizard Adventure. That sounds fun. And let's say the wizard is called Jennifer. Let's create that novel. So we've got that novel here. That's great. Looks like that is like a description. So let's just paste that into the actual novel here as well, and then save that. You've got a word count here when it was last updated, which is maybe useful. I didn't ask for that. I found that Leap tends to be very clear in doing just what you've asked for it, rather than going off and doing a lot of different other changes. Like some platforms I've used have a tendency to interpret what you've asked for and go and do a lot of other things as well, whereas I find that Leap is very accurate in what it does and tends to stick closer to what you ask rather than doing a bunch of other stuff. Now, there's different use cases for these different platforms, so you might actually want one of these platforms to help you build in a bunch of functionality that you weren't aware of. But if you are really clear about what you're building and you want to build something very specific, then Leap is like a very, very good platform to do that. So what I'm going to do here on the chat assistant is I'm just going to select that novel. The wizard is called Jennifer, and let's ask the novel writing assistant, and hopefully it gets this right, what is the wizard called? What is the wizard's name? And that is basically going to help us prove that this novel writing assistant is referencing the context that it has here that we've given to it. The wizard's name is Jennifer. Okay, perfect. So this is working. So we not only have we like built our app very quickly, but we've also built a custom AI agent using a popular framework in the OpenAI agent SDK. We've given it context of the chat history, and we've given it context of the novels that are created here as well. In just, I don't even know if this is 2 prompts basically, which is pretty incredible. So now let's see how well Leap actually does with the UI side of this, with the design side of this. So I'm just going to go over to curated.design here. I'm just going to find a website that I like the UI of, and then we're going to copy that UI basically. We're going to try and copy that UI. So it's very straightforward. I kind of like this, but it's fairly basic. Let's find something a little bit more creative that we can copy here. Maybe that is going to be a bit more like a book, like a novel, like paper with like a serif font on it, something like that. I might need to go into like a different category here. So let's I found this website, works.studio, and I like the serif fonts that we've got here. It feels a little bit more like handcrafted and a bit more like editorial style, which is more in line with the app that we're creating, which is basically like this novel writing assistant. What I'm going to do is I'm going to screenshot the top of this website. I'm just going to drop the screenshot back into Leap, and then we're going to see how well it creates a UI in this style. And I'm also going to give it a bit of a style description for the UI as well to kind of guide it. So that's our image attached to the chat there. So I've just said here, let's update the UI for this app to be minimal, using luxury serif fonts for all of the typography, as well as a monochrome color palette so that it feels more like writing a novel with pen and paper. And let's see what Leap does here with this, just to kind of show you what this is building as we go as well. Now that we've created this this novel section, if you go over to architecture, you can see you've got this icon here, which is like a stack. That's your database basically. So we've got an agent that is connected to this database, and this database has 5 elements in it. So this is basically a map of like all of the backend architecture for our app, which is super useful. And you don't get, like, even if you're connecting Superbase or another service like that for your database, you can have a look in Superbase, but it's really useful to just to be able to reference this here in order to see everything that's going on with our app. And you can see in the compute section here and the database, we've got the database name, which is novel, and that's running. We've got compute, and these are the number of endpoints in each of these things. So the agent has 1 endpoint and the novel has 5 endpoints. Basically, they're pieces of information or like a bit of data that the app can retrieve if it needs to. And then on the service catalog here, we've got all of that mapped out for our agent and for our novel, and we can see each of the different endpoints in that database for our app. So you don't necessarily need to know exactly what all of these things are, but it is really, really useful if you do want to, even if you're just getting started with app building, if you're building your app here and then you're starting to learn this terminology and starting to learn a bit more technical kind of like implementation for AI apps, you can start really understanding it from these just tabs up here. It's a super easy way to get started. And so now we've got this UI is updated, the build is successful, and we can see here it's a much more kind of, this is a better UI for like novel writing assistant. It hasn't made a ton of changes here. So the icons are still and the text fields are still in the same style. I feel like it's played quite it's done like quite a conservative approach to the changes. And I feel like generally Leap tends to be a bit more conservative in the changes that it's making. Again, like trying to stick very close to what you're asking of it. And the screenshot that I did provide did just have like this white background with the text on it. So it's fairly fairly simple anyway, so it's probably just followed that. We can prompt this for like more specific changes and just say like, okay, for this page here, let's add that to the scope context, and then just say, talk about the exact elements that we want to change here. Now we've got our app build. You can see how quick it is to build a full app in Leap and build a custom AI agent for your app as well. You can change the mode here, so this is responsive mode versus desktop, and you can open this in a preview so you can see the full app here. One other thing to note here as well is that Leap integrates really well with Polar, which is my recommended payment provider of choice for any sort of AI apps that you might be building. Polar is basically your kind of go-to for any sort of software app payments, and the reason that Polar is so good is because A, they're a merchant of record, and B, they're designed to work with software products out of the box, and they cover usage-based pricing as well. So Polar is really great for if you're building an app and you want to integrate payments, and Polar is a partner company for Leap, and so they work really well together, and all you literally have to do here is just prompt in the box, connect Polar for payments, and Leap will go away and it will do that integration for you just from that one prompt. Whilst that is doing that integration, you'll have to put in some information here, so it's going to say like, oh, it's missing your Polar like identifier or organization key or something like that, where you have to connect it up. But I've connected this up to a previous app using Leap, and it was super quick and easy to do. All you have to do is create the products in Polar and then connect this just using a prompt, just very simply, similar to this in Leap. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you here before we wrap things up and just go through my final thoughts was deploying this and seeing all of your app statistics in Encore, so you can get a full view of exactly what is going on with your AI built app. One thing to note is that you do have to merge or discard your ongoing changes before deploying. So that's another really great feature about Leap, is that often in tools like Lovable or Bolt, or even if you're working with Claude Code, you can clear the chat, and you can clear the chat in Lovable or Bolt and start a new one. But this has a direct way of doing that directly in the UI, where you just click, if you're happy with all the changes that you've made and you want to start from scratch in a new session or a new feature, you can just click merge changes. That will merge all of the changes to your app. And then you can see that I've got here missing secret value for Polar access token, so I can go over to my secrets and add the Polar access token there as well. If I go back to preview, you can actually see that it's created this premium features tab. I didn't ask it to, but it's created this premium features tab to like integrate the payment part of this as well. So you can be more specific about how you want to integrate payments with your app as you're building it, but out of the box this works super well with Polar by just doing that. And so now we've merged, it said the features that it's merged into the code, and then any of the other quality stuff that it's done here, we can click deploy if we want to deploy our app. Basically deploy our app to a staging environment using Leap and Encore, and then we're going to go through to Encore and have a look at our app's dashboard so we can monitor everything like API usage, all of the statistics that we might want to see with our app. And again, it might be a little bit much. It's still a little bit much for me to understand everything that's going on with Encore because I'm not technically minded either, but it's a really great place to kind of have a visualization of all of that information. And this just gives you the peace of mind that when you build your app and you launch it, it's going to be secure, everything's going to work properly, that how you've deployed it can scale super easily, and you can always bring in your code from another platform to Leap if you do want to start building on Leap as well and just test it to see how it works. So now this is deployed on a staging environment on Encore. You can go over to this URL and you can actually see the app that you've built in Leap here. So this is my novel writing assistant app that I've built with everything that we've done in just those few prompts, which is pretty incredible, I think, and a lot better than a lot of other tools that I've used. You can also go over to Encore. So Encore is the platform that you'll be deploying your app through Leap with. It's basically an entire backend infrastructure platform here, so you can see everything to do with your apps that you've deployed. So if I go into this, you can see an overview of your app, the number of environments, services, endpoints and resources, the flow diagram for all of the databases and all of the entities that we've created within our app here. You You've got access to your secrets, your custom domain. You can connect your cloud environment here if you want to use AWS or Google Cloud. And you can go into all of the other aspects of your app here as well, so a more detailed view of the flow. And if you go over to environments and this staging environment, you can get an overview of the request rate for your app, change any settings here, and you also get a ton of information about the infrastructure and the metrics for your app that you've deployed as well. So even if you don't understand all of this, which I definitely don't understand all of this platform, this basically just gives you peace of mind that if you've deployed your app via Encore, if you're building and Leap, you know you've got everything covered. If you do get customers and you do need to scale it in the future, you can do all of that with Encore, just giving you that peace of mind that everything is covered as and when you do start to grow your app. And so that's everything with Leap.new. Hopefully it's been a good demo to show you what Leap can do when it comes to AI app building, and it gives you a little bit of insight into the tool. I really enjoy using Leap. It's one of my favorite tools for building AI apps. And so let's end the video there and I'll get into my final thoughts. So that was Leap, and I think it's safe to say I really, really like this platform. I think this is one of the best platforms that you can use for building an AI app, especially a complex app or an app with proper enterprise support and infrastructure. It gives you tons of tools out of the box. You can build databases, view the architecture, merge changes into your code base, and also import projects from GitHub, as well as a bunch of other stuff that tie into the Encore platform for really secure deployment and monitoring of your AI app live in a way that can support thousands of customers and scale without having to worry about what tools or platform you're actually integrated with. And so if you're building an AI app that's maybe a little bit more complex, or you want a bit more of a technical view into what's going on behind the scenes and be able to manage and track all of that information, then I would hugely recommend trying out Leap as your AI app building tool. You can find out more about Leap and start using it today over at Leap.new. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are building an AI app and you actually want to get paying customers, I've got a community just for you over at school.com/AI apps. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Build great product. Build great product.